Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio. We are radio for the ready-minded. This is our weekly live. If you haven't joined us, man, you got to join us. It's a lot of fun. We get quite the group commenting and asking questions. This is our podcast for the prepared live stream episode. Tonight, we're going to be talking all about questions and answers, things that are going on in our groups, things that we're hearing and getting a lot of questions on via instant messenger, direct messages, etc., as well as answering and fielding questions in our live. So thank you everyone that's participating tonight. Remember to check out our good friends, survivalfrog.com. They've got a whole crap ton of good stuff. My favorite is their meats. Their meats are delicious. They're not freeze-dried. They're actually cooked and canned in the same process, and it's good for up to 30 years. So go check them out. We got a promo code for you, Prepper Talk. One word, Prepper Talk. That'll save 10% on checkout. It stacks on all the other discounts they're doing. So go do that, survivalfrog.com. Now, tonight, man, there's a lot of manure being tossed around the world right now. Let's get into the minutia of preparedness. And we've got a ton of different questions. I wanted to see if you guys wanted to field something first. If you had something that was asked a lot of you, let's kind of circle the horn and see what you guys have.
Well, let's just start with this first question of the darn live. Utah Mike, 25% of 2024 is passed. Have you completed 25% of your goals?
No.
I haven't tracked mine. Let me say that. I haven't tracked it, but I've been doing pretty good, Mike. I appreciate the reminder there. Absolutely.
I'm probably between 15 to 20%. If I really buckled down and did the math right now, I'm not where I need to be. And I think that's where I am almost every year is like at the end of the year, I'm probably close to 60 to 70% of what my goals were.
That's better than most people probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like that. I don't know. I shouldn't use a food analogy because like I have big eyes and my eyes are bigger than my stomach, but I still will finish it. But like a little kid, they'll be like, oh, I want a big bowl of ice cream. They'll eat half of it and waste the other half. And you're like, no,
dude. Yeah.
It's only 50% of the goal accomplished. So,
but see, that's some programming by your parents to eat everything on your plate. There's kids that are starving in Africa, right?
Oh my goodness.
You know what I mean? And so that's why part of the reason why there's, bad health and obesity in the U.S.
Well, that and the fact that we have all this manipulated food crap that's not even real food. So that comes to one of the big questions we keep getting. A lot of this question is, what do you guys recommend starting when it comes to getting my food storage? We cover this a lot, but it's simply this. You can do two things. One, you can go the standard, I guess, out there, which is get a bunch of your dried food stores in the number 10 cans, like your wheat, your beans, your oats. All of that stores for a really, really long time. It's your cheapest option, but it's not your favorite option because even though it's got all the stuff, you've got to make all of it from scratch. The other thing that we recommend is canned foods. Put the freeze-dried stuff last. It's the most expensive. And you need as much of the stuff you eat every day first. As Paris is munching over there on the other screen.
But at least I'm on mute. You can't hear it.
Yes, thank you.
So I was just going to add to that. When somebody asks me, what should I do to start my food storage? My first thing is, do you have your 90-day pantry? What you're actually going to eat. The second thing is, go get like these kits, maybe the 3-month kits or whatever. Then that gives you a little bit of buffer. And then your staples, the beans, the rice, the oats, the stuff like that. Because I feel like if you go buy a bunch of oats and stuff like that, but you don't have your 90-day pantry, or you don't have rice and beans is really boring if you really think about it. So I want to add.
Some people love it. Their rice and beans.
But if I get a freeze dried or a dehydrated food, a dinner, because maybe it's like whatever, chicken and broccoli, whatever, I can take some rice and I can throw it in there and I can double that now. Now I've got one freeze-dried dinner that now can last maybe 2 or 3 dinners because I added those bulk rices. That's my brain. That's how my brain works. I'm weird, but hopefully that helps somebody because it is also spices, like for goodness sakes, if you're going to have rices and beans and other things, like get some spices in your stuff.
100%. That's everyone's first mistake is they don't add spice.
Just invite me over. I'm a freaking spice your life up.
Okay, I think we should change the subject.
I did
totally agree. Totally agree.
Since our last episode, I did get the chance to do my 72-hour kit presentation to my church. So there was a few cool questions that came up there. So when we get, those were mostly related to obviously the core topic was grab and go bags and how to really kind of get there. So I don't want to hijack the conversation about food storage because I think this is a good one right now. That's something that I know I have a couple cool questions that we can add to this list.
Well, and even with the food storage, like we even have like our food storage calculator at preppertalkradio.com. Like you can track all of your stuff, but it also tells you how many calories you have and how long it'll last based on how large your group is. So it's just a simple tool, but like Pierre said, go back to the basic of your 90-day pantry. I think that's first all the time. And of course, Mike, you just use a garden to spice and up rice and beans. Like you should be growing peppers. That's the simplest thing to do. Mm-hmm. That adds flavor. There's so many things you can do to increase and expand that food. But like, I don't know. I get not paranoid. I get really worried for people who think I got to go get a bunch of freeze-dried foods first.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation.
It's the most marketing you see.
Yeah. They see all this marketing. Like, well, I need that. And then they're like, the question is, what are you doing for water? And they're like, what? Well, what if the water lines get cut off? Like, what if your water supply is gone? Oh no. Well, it's good for 20 years, so I'll just wait and eat it later. Like after you've dehydrated and died. Like, what?
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Whereas your pantry, it's like most of it. Yeah, there's some dry foods, there's pastas, and there's other stuff in there, but like a lot of it, like your canned stuff, doesn't require additional water. Like, and use that water. Like, don't let that water just go to waste.
I agree, especially beans. Canned beans.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta really soak beans that are dried for a long time. But if it's already canned, it's already been soaking, already been ready to go. Because food is, next to water, food is the next most important thing on any kind of prepper's list. That's what you have to have is the food and the water. That's a key.
100%. Okay, the next question.
Oh, did you have another one?
Grab and go bag.
So yeah, I did my presentation this last week on the grab and go bag. There was probably a dozen guys came. One guy actually was like, "Man, I want to know who's going to be in charge of starting up when crap hits the fan. Who are we going to create a neighborhood watch?" And I'm like, "Whoa, bro, this is not the meeting for that. I like where you're going, but we're talking about 72-hour bags, grab and go bags in this particular thing." We definitely chatted about 96-hour versus 72 and why that's important. There's a guy that was there though, and he's just a neat guy, and he's like, I'm barely starting. Like, what do I do? Like, so one of the things that we talked about was, if you're going to get a bag, first thing is get a good, strong bag. We talked about the difference between the Molly butt bag. We talked about the difference between just getting a backpacker's bag and why you want to go with one or the other of those. And then I said, for your kids though, he's like, what about my kids? Do they need all the stuff? I'm like, no, actually your kids just need some basics and then some toys and coloring. Like really, they don't need a lot. And don't spend a bunch of money on backpacks for kids, because backpack for kids you can just grab the last year's backpack for school and just fill that with a few things and have that be the grab and go bag for them. And then definitely want to store those grab and go bags low enough that your kid can do it. One of the dads that showed up was like, I think we still have diapers in our grab and go bags, and we don't have any kids in diapers. I'm like, well, that was the last time you checked into your grab and go bags. It's good to remind ourselves to check on those bags on a regular basis. So I think the question was, what bag should I get for my grab and go bag? And if you've never bought a bag, don't get super crazy expensive unless you've got the cash flow for it. But get a good quality value bag. And I think we have a relationship with LA Police Gear. That's a good one. You can go on Amazon and find some great ones there. I don't know that we have a link for any of them, but definitely get a good solid bag, because you're going to have at least one. If you're the father or the parent, you want to have at least a good, strong bag for you. And then your kids, you can, as they grow, as they get more robust in their skill sets, maybe upgrade their bag, but start with a backpack from last year's school year. That's super simple and easy. And he was like, oh, good. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's great. And basically, we've taken a more recent approach to that in our family. I've challenged them to update their bags and get their bags ready, because I'm going to, at some point, surprise them with a 60-second drill. Okay, 60 seconds, we have to be out the door. And if you're not ready, you're going without, or you're going barefoot, you're going in your pajamas or whatever, and without a change of clothes.
Oh, that's cool.
We, in our garage, we have cabinets. I have one cabinet specifically stocked with food buckets, the family pack, and cooking kit and so forth that we can get out in 60 seconds. That's the first highest level of our go bags.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea. Here's my question though. I know some of your kids have grown up and moved out. Are you going to like go bang on their door and run the drill for them too? Or are you just going to do it for your household?
I need to, but that's not going to work at this point. I need to come up with a different strategy that way. But they're on the same page, but they're not on the same page, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I almost want to do that though. Like now that you've brought up that idea, I almost want to go over to like the in-laws' house and be like, emergency drill, get your stuff and go. National emergency, go. And see if they do anything, right? It'll probably just tick them off, but it would kind of be fun to do.
Who knows if they're actually going to participate, and they're like, okay, we get it. No, I'm serious. Let's do this.
When they finally listen to this, I apologize in advance. I'm going to do this now. It's on the radar. It's on the map. It's on the calendar.
You're welcome.
It will be happening.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
Okay, question
Cody?
I've got. No, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Cody mentioned flea markets are a good place to find bags. Army Navy is a fantastic place to find bags. Find whatever you find. Here are my 3 things that a bag needs to have. It needs to have good shoulder straps that curve around the neck and a good waist belt. If it's your go bag, like if you have to hike with it. If you're not hiking with it, don't worry as much about that factor. And just make sure it's something you can put in your car and get out of town.
School bags, exactly. And that's exactly what our kids have done. They take their old school backpacks, got a couple change of clothes and some other stuff in there, and it doesn't have to be any special because they're going in the car, right? They're going right in the car, and we're just don't see many opportunities or reasons why we would need to actually walk out on foot from our house. But who knows? Maybe the mountain explodes in a volcano and we're done for. But
well, if Wyoming goes, we're all gone.
Yeah, exactly. Who's going to prep for that?
Super volcano.
Head to the southern hemisphere for that one.
Well, most of the time, you're going to only need the grab and go bag for like a natural disaster or something like that, where you can, if it's, if your house is shaken or you got a tornado, and then you're just going to need it for a few days maybe, and then you're going to come back. That's kind of why it's a 96-hour kit, because you want to have enough food. And that's the thing too, is like I was going through the kit items, and there's gear that you want to have in your 96-hour bag, but make sure you have some food in there too, because that's something that you want to make sure you have some of those, even if it's just the rationing bars. I mean, those will keep you, those will stop you up for a few days, but that'll definitely give you enough food to eat, and then have some freeze dried stuff. That's okay to have freeze dried stuff for sure in your 96-hour kit, Mountain House, whatever it is, because you're going to want to pour in some water and just eat right out of the bag, because you're not going to have dishes or other things. So definitely your grab and go bag is for the, and I talked with the guys about how, bugging out isn't just you grab your bag and bug out like to where, like that. The point is that you're going somewhere. You have more resources, you have other resources, and you're going from one locale to another locale to get your resources. And so that's something that comes up as a question all the time too, is like, where are we going with your bag? Well, exactly. Where are you going with your bag? You need to have a place to go. And that's something that you should plan ahead of time.
Yeah. I'll address Mike's question since we're on the topic here. I'll just put that up on the screen here. What is the reality of needing to relocate? and that's very personal, but in general, if you're in a city, I think the truth is you're gonna want to, at some point you're going to want to bug out to get to a different location. For me, I mean, that's 100%. It's 100%. I already have my bug out location. But you can very, very easily decide, oh, I'm going to bug in and we're just going to make the best of it. And maybe your location is good enough. Maybe you already live in a rural area or on the edge of a suburban area. You might have a good chance of doing well in those types of areas. But for me, 100% we're bugging out. But we're prepared. We're making more plans. We're doing more and more work. So that's a very personal question, though, Mike. Yeah.
Well, I think the bigger question is have you done a threat analysis to your location where you are? Have you walked around your house and looked at where the possible penetration points into your house? Have you figured out how to refortify those in a scenario where you have to protect yourself more, right? Those are the things I think that are often overlooked when people think about the security of their current location. Do I bug in or do I bug out? The other part of it is bugging out is a strategic relocation to a place with additional supplies and resources and personnel who are already committed to your team. If you're bugging out on a dream, you're dead. Or I should say, you are unaliving yourself on your hike. Like you're disappearing. The reality is most people, this is the argument about like bugging out that actually makes me so frustrated, because all these keyboard jockey guys are like, keyboard warriors, like, oh yeah, I can bug out, I'll be fine. I'm like, you can't tie your shoes without getting short of breath.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not staying physically fit, you're not walking a long distance. You're not strategically relocating to the middle of nowhere with no resources. You have to have an actual plan.
And you have to get out early.
And you have to get there early. But you also have to have resources there already. Like, you can't just be like, oh, we bought some land up in yonder sticks behind this place. No one will know we're there. But do you have anything there when you get there? Do you have a shelter? Do you have food? Do you have a water source? Like, plan and implement those strategies and practices now. Do you have other people that are going to meet you there? And do you all have maps and routes planned to get there, and backup routes and alternate routes in case you're being followed or in case something else is going on? Like, those are the basic things of bugging out that people completely neglect. And I hear a lot, especially guys that are like, well, I got a rifle, I'll just walk into the woods, get a deer. And I'm like, dude, everybody else and their dog's doing that. Mm-hmm. And the dogs are going to be the only ones that actually eat. Yeah. It's scary because there's not a lot of thought put into it in most cases. Now, if you're really good and you have your plan all figured out, none of what I just said applies to you.
And none of it. And more often than not, quite frankly, is that you're not going to bug out. I feel like the percentages are that you're going to be hunkering down in your current location. You're going to be in your home. That's why it's so important to have your food storage and your water storage at home and be ready to go, because there's going to be power outages probably, unless you have a fire or a massive earthquake that totally destroys your house and the structural integrity of your home. You're probably going to be at your home more often than not. I mean, it's once the zombies start coming and civil war happens, I mean, that's, if China invades or Russia invades, like, well, come on, like what are all these if scenarios? Sure, you might bug out for those things, but more often than not, most emergencies, most life emergencies and things that are happening, you're going to be bugging in, and that's going to be where you're going to need to have all of your resources anyways.
Absolutely. Mike hit it on the head. Like, biggest threat would be a fire, right? The relocate, you gotta have to. Second would be if his wife found out about how much he actually spent at the gun store. That's why, some gun stores will give you that courtesy fake receipt. Cody, on the other hand, pointed out with the storms in Indiana and northern Kentucky, the 3 tornadoes, like, bugging out is an after event, right? Then it comes to a you're now looking for a safe place to be, right? And this goes back to emergency planning. if there's a wildfire, if there's a tornado, if we have to evacuate, where do we go? Right? Different than bugging out. Like what is my secondary place? Can I stay at an in-law's house or a friend's house in the next city over or the next state over, or what are my other options? And who have I already created relocation plans with? Shane, tell us what you're showing there.
Well, I'm just showing the poweroutage.us showing Kentucky and Indiana and such with all the power outages from the storms.
Yeah, that's legit. I think part of that is that once you got to bunker down. If there's a tornado coming over, I don't know how. I mean, tornadoes can go one way or the other, and if you're not out already, that's something that you got to be ready for. That's what's so important about knowing your area, knowing what natural disasters could be in your area. And where I live and Shane lives and even Scott, we're right along that fault line on the Rocky Mountain, on the west side of the mountain, Everlasting Hills. And so that's a huge threat to us. There's some reservoirs that are north. There's further up, elevated up. So if there's some situation, we could have some flooding. So there's just know the disaster for your area, and then have a plan ahead of time so that you're ready for it. And that might be that definitely includes what Mike was talking about earlier about you got to have a buddy that you can stay on their couch when your wife gets mad at you. Like that's part of bugging out, Anyways,
it's funny how that
or have a trailer in the woods.
That rule only applies to the guys. Like if a guy's mad at his wife, he's still out on the couch. If she's mad at him, he's on the couch or at the buddies, right? But
that's funny.
In all reality, like you have to have and know where you're going to go beforehand, because if a whole bunch of people have to get relocated due to a natural disaster, who else is going to try to stay at that friend's house, right? Are all the in-laws going to one person's house, and does that person have one bathroom or 10? Can it really take care of all of you? Most likely, no.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so it's funny that comes up so often in all the different communications and conversations we have. It's like on repeat all the time. But the other thing is, like, having gone through tornadoes myself, like you have no advance warning almost always. You might get an alarm and a siren from the school or from the local police station. Like if there is a local siren, you might get that and have enough advance notice to get into the basement, right? But you can't really leave until it's all over. When it comes to a fire, like those happen, wildfires happen all the time. You usually have a little bit of warning, but you got to get out quick because roads can close fast.
Mm-hmm.
Fires can jump roads quickly and easily. When it comes to earthquake, you don't get an advance warning, right? But when it comes to hurricanes, you get tons of warning.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have that backup plan, get out of Dodge, or reinforce your home and try to sit through it. So you've got to know what your plan is and know how to execute that plan. That's what I see. That's the biggest gap, I think, in most preparedness people's minds is, well, how do we think we'll do this, but we have never planned it or tried it. How will you really get through it?
Yeah, really think through it. I think another question that came up at our meeting, and then one that I've seen several times, is like when the grid goes down, what are the best ways to communicate and keep communications open with, and not just your family, but also, for example, there's a bunch of guys that I'm part of a men's group, and we're like, when crap goes down, I want to be able to, and they're in one of them's in a couple cities over, one of them's about 45 minutes away, and then they have contacts like up more closer to where you are, Scott, in Bountiful area and in northern Utah, and they're like, we want to set up a communication chain because we want to be able to keep each other notified, and if you're okay, then we're all good. If you're not okay, we want to be able to know we got to get somebody in there to help you. And that's part of building a community, is having not just knowing who can do what, but also having a way to communicate with those people. And whether it's GMRS or ham, you got to have a way to communicate on a regular basis and practice that. Like one of the things that I'm excited that I bought a nice radio, but I've just bought it. Like, I don't know how to use it yet. So we're going to start doing classes and courses and having fun, like practicing back and forth, doing some stuff with some local guys here that's important too, is just get a good communication plan, get good communication equipment, and then practice the plan and use the equipment so you know how to use it.
So you asked about we've talked about this last week, but you guys asked about what my range is on my GMRS radios. These are the GMRS GM15 Pro from Baofeng. With the standard antenna that it comes with, line of sight, we were getting just over a mile.
Okay.
With the extended whip, this thing I got almost 2.8 miles. It was just over 2.7 miles. So, and that we didn't check across all channels. We were just kind of playing with it in the car. But I was super impressed. As soon as I put this in, the clarity was way better. Communication was awesome. And I was really looking for anything at least 2.5 miles out for communication. And that solved.
How many hertz is it, or what's the watts on that?
15. These are 8
watts.
Oh,
So I finally got my mobile unit installed in the Tundra last night.
Oh,
I was sitting and listening, scanning the 2-meter frequency, and came across the Utah VHF Society. They were having their net, and the people were checking in all the way up into Pocatello.
Oh, wow.
wow.
And northern Utah, southern Utah. Actually, there was one from Las Vegas. They're obviously using repeaters. But if you want to talk about distance, you got to go ham. You got to go ham and then join these different clubs and learn how to do it.
Well, the challenge though with ham though is after disaster, if there's no power to the repeaters, you lose the repeaters. That falls in line with every repeater. It doesn't matter if it's GMRS or ham, but ham's going to give you the advantage if you're going to do the daisy chain communication, where you're going to radio a friend and then they'll radio the next friend further down. Like ham's going to get way farther distance wise.
And most of these ham repeaters are battery with solar. Some are going to be at Lake Mountain, which they have grid power up there at Lake Mountain. But I mean, you got to get to know your repeater and what the specifics are. But
that's so awesome.
And I'm learning more about this. But my brother shared with me, and frankly, we had a guy talk about it. I think a civilian was talking about it too when we had a meeting about it. But one other thing is it's called Mesh-tastic, and it's a text messaging versus a voice communication where you can text, and actually individuals can have repeaters or nodes or whatever. And then, so it's not out there. I mean, you can put them in the wilderness, but you're going to have a lot more success when you have them in places that are you can monitor it and keep it safe, so I think that's another new technology that's going to be quite useful if you get into it. Mesh-tastic, I'm learning more about it. My brother's going to be here in a couple of weeks for the wedding that I'm having for my family, but he's going to bring a couple of those and show me how to use it. So I'm excited to report back on how those work, because that's a great way to communicate, and that's a text messaging style where it uses repeaters, nodes, stuff like that to kind of communicate.
So I got a couple of questions here for you guys.
Okay, go for it.
All right. Well, cool. I'll throw these out, and then we'll maybe pick one. First one we got the other day is, obviously with prepping, you accumulate a lot of stuff. How do you organize efficiently? How do you stay organized? And I am constantly struggling with that myself. I'm trying to improve, find new ways. And I think, Paris, you and I should put together a video on some of the stuff I've been doing recently and share that, because I'm pretty excited about it, but we can talk about that later. But and then a few other questions I'm going to throw out there. What are the chances of something kicking off? I mean, this has been big talk. I've heard a lot of different channels and commentators saying, okay, something's going to happen. Something's happening. Something's building up, right? What are the chances? And then how can I prep if I have no money, right? That's a big one. And that's a tough one too, but definitely worth some discussion there.
Well, I can answer real quickly that what do I prep if I have no money is you can learn a skill for relatively cheap or nothing. And maybe you don't have the ability to have food storage because you can't afford it, but maybe you can trade your skill for somebody who doesn't have the skill but has food storage. And I would be if somebody knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I don't have any food storage, but I have the following skills that I'm willing to utilize if you'll pay me in food storage," that's going to be a way easier sale than, "Hey, I was an idiot, didn't do any food storage, and I'm here to have you just give me everything or give me stuff." Well, what do you like? Provide a value back. Like, not always are money is a mode and a medium of exchange. And if you don't have money, you still have something to exchange. You just use that instead. And that's something that I would suggest, is that you partner with some people who do have some money and are building up food storage. Maybe you're the guy that learns what food storage is, and you say, "Hey, you know what? You give me the money, I'll go buy it all for you, and as part of my payment, I'm going to take a few things for myself." And that's the deal you work out. So I think that if you get creative, you'll find ways to prep with very little to no money.
The more you know, the less you need.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because like you can prep on a budget. You really can. And a lot of people think, "Oh no, you can't. You have to spend all this money." And it's because they've been marketed to with all the expensive stuff, all the big gear. Well, you don't. Paris is right. Go back and educate and learn. Build skills. We talked about this on a prior episode. Like, one of the overlooked skills, sewing. Another overlooked skill, carpentry. There's so many things you can take your little DIY passion and turn into some fabulous skills to be able to use to help other people. Like, I remember I don't remember me during the Great Depression, I wasn't alive, but stories from ancestors talking about a guy would show up on the farm and ask for, he's like, "All I need is a potato and a place to sleep. I will work all day for it." And they'd let him sleep in the barn, and they'd give him a full meal, but then he'd help work in the field for the day, and then he'd move on. And that is probably more likely to become our future than just our past. And if you have skills and you're a hard worker, this goes back to Mike made the comment, you've got to keep yourself in shape too, because you can't do that if you're out of shape. Skills and work ethic and being able to be a hard worker, that's going to be invaluable. And that's one easy way to start prepping now.
Another great question that I'll throw out there, still ability to talk about organizational methods and such, which is a whole podcast in and of itself, is why do we even have a border?
Interesting.
Why do we even have a border, right? Very important question right now.
Well, to me, that's more along the lines of, why do you have walls in your house? It's privacy. You want to have, there's just sovereignty. That's a whole.
Yeah.
Shane, you're really good at opening up cans of worms right toward the end of our podcast, bro.
I'm good at it. I got to do it, right? So
let's talk about your other question, unless Scott wants to jump in on something. But I want to talk about your question about, what's going to kick off, and what's the likelihood of
something kicking off? Yeah.
Scott, do you want to talk about that, or do you want to go?
I think honestly, right now, the biggest threat, I think, like, there are a lot of people worried about the eclipse. The reality of the eclipse is, yes, NASA is launching 3 sound rockets into it. They want to study the effects. The other thing is, there's going to be a lot of people hitting a lot of small towns. You're going to have congestion. You're going to have, hopefully not, but you'll have stupid people who are either inebriated or just bad at making good decisions and staying friendly. That could be a problem. What I'm not worried about, but what I'm more like, okay, this is actually powder keg ready to go, is what's going on in Israel. Right. And what would that affect here if the red cow, the red heifer, does get sacrificed? What's that going to mean between the Jewish and the Muslim territories
and nations, just even around the world?
Because
and that's not to mention
everybody's going to stack up behind their side. Well, everyone's going to stack up behind their side and like, "Oh yeah, we're going to war. We're going to help." We're that, I think, is a bigger concern. But you also pointed out Syria, Shane, like that.
Well, yeah, Israel launched that rocket right into Damascus and killed the Iranian generals or military, and that's going to be a big deal. That
Right?
we are definitely going to see something pop off there from Iran to Israel. They've been warring. They've been at it forever, decades and decades.
Yeah,
And that lit the fuse right there. That lit the fuse.
I was another fuse that's on the other side of the world is I was just watching a podcast where these guys were reading this article about from China about how they're like, we don't care about America. We want to go take them out. The best way to do that is without guns. We're just going to go invade with, sneak in and do some things that way. So, and then you see there's a guy that was a reporter and he's a journalist and he's a hardened journalist. He's not one of these ones that just goes and studies. He like physically goes to the place and like learns what's going on, boots on the ground. And he was saying that in a lot of these camps and these trains that are coming up through South America, it's a significant amount of Chinese military aged men that are working to come in here. And that what the things that they're saying about how they feel and then having that kind of a thing coming, it just seems like a Trojan horse. And then you've got an election year. I mean, there's no wonder people are asking, is something going to happen this year? Because there's so many things there's so many fuses that are so short. You get that close to any flame and you're going to, one pops off, the other one pops up, and maybe they all blow each other up and we get a really big one. But the reality is we need to keep our head on a swivel and we need to keep watching what's going on and be careful. That's why we need to prepare. We need to be ready. And I was talking to somebody last night. If you want to really do it right, don't prepare for an event. Be prepared. And when the events come, you're ready. Just be prepared for life, for all kinds of things. And then when an event happens, you're like, I'm already 80% plus prepared for it. And you just go and you just go through it. And so that's something that I think that, yes, we're in a place where whether it's Israel, whether it's China, whether it's the border, whether it's the voting, the election year, it's a powder keg and different, all kinds of levels. Something changed, Shane.
Yeah, okay, there it is. And so here's another sign I think people are looking at. Of course, I just hit the wrong buttons here. What we're seeing here is, and it's getting no attention other than us gold and silver bugs. If you can see that, what has been happening to gold and silver? Have you seen that? You've been watching this?
Read it to us.
It says, is that 27 or 37?
23.19. Gold at 23.19 has been going up 1% a day. Silver's been going up 1 to 4% a day. And doesn't look like it's going to stop. Something's going on there that's making this happen because it's not in the news. There's no real big buying other than by countries buying gold. They don't buy silver. Bitcoin's all over the place. It's been the record highs and it's dropping again. Just these types of things behind the scenes are saying something's going to happen. Something's happening. And I mean, it's exciting for us gold and silver bugs, but what's causing it to do that? Because it's been suppressed for decades.
Yeah.
I think
now it looks like it's taken off.
I think it's just the continual realization of the collapse of our current economy.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's happening. It's interesting. You also brought up Damascus. As a scriptural person, as a person of faith, like Isaiah 17, and behold, the burden of Damascus, behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. Like that in these times, like, dude, if they're popping off rockets already, like it's not going to be long before things go sideways. And so that's why for us, it's always comes back to what are we doing to be prepared always? Like Parrish just said, it's like, don't plan for one little event, plan for life, because those little events are part of life. And if the big events happen, 80% of it's taken care of. Like that's why we live prepared.
It's true.
And it's funny because like the other thing that I keep getting questions on is water. We need to do a whole episode on this, but like there are so many of the filters that I love that are actually being restricted right now. It's hard to find in places like Berkey products alone, Big Berkey, they're hard to find. So we'll bring this up in another episode. We'll talk about some of those solutions, but yeah, there is a lot that can be happening right now, but there's a lot of things you can be doing that's going to get you further ahead. And I think that's where we're missing the point. All of us listening, all of us participating, like if you're still breathing and there's no chaos fully engulfing your life right now, keep prepping.
Yeah. Stay the course.
Just keep moving. It's like it's like Dory. I almost said Dora the Explorer. Dory from Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming.
Mhm.
Just keep going forward and keep working on your preparedness plan. Put it together, focus on it, and keep it going. The only one that's going to get you further along in that process is you. And it all rides on your ability to do that.
Yeah. Don't stop living your life. Like you still have fun with your family, still create memories with your families. However, you should have an underlying kind of, I mean, I kind of liken it into like you're a secret operative, you know, you're okay. I got all my preps ready. When the call comes, I'm ready to go save the world. You know, I don't know, whatever helps you. That's what helps me. I just like to be that guy. It's like, hey, everybody thinks I'm just a normal neighbor. And then when crap hits the fan, they're like, what the Paris has got the tactical everything, and he's got food up the yin yang, and he's got water coming out of his wells. Like, where did he get all that stuff? I'm like, I'm the prepper guy. Anyways, so I'm just saying, like, live life, like plant your trees, plant your gardens, live life. There's lots of wonder still going on in the world. However, keep your head on a swivel. Be aware, because there are evil people in this world conspiring to do things to destroy us. And when they come, because it's not an if, when they come, you be the warrior in the garden. Be the warrior in the garden. You can take your hoe. Like, I don't know how many movies I've seen where it's like the guy walks up, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so. I don't know who that is or whatever. And they're just gardening, and like they take the rake or something and like beat the crap out of the guy or something. Like, it just, to me, that's just awesome. Like, a rake is my weapon, you know? Anyways, I digress. But the point is just keep going, keep live life, but also be ready, be prepared. Thank you. And I'm out.
Shane, any final
No,
thoughts,
I guess
Shane?
my final thoughts would be to address, you know, how do you prep with no or little money, right? Paris's comments were spot on. I think they're actually perfect. One thing I just wanted to add to that is that prayer and action and work will get you further than you can possibly imagine, right? If you don't have the money, but there's certain, obviously you got to have stuff. You know, there are certain things you can do with barter, but you got to have stuff. And if you pray and you work toward it, you will be blessed with the things you need.
100% agree with that. Thank you.
Amen.
Well, guys, you've been part of the live this week. Thank you, everyone, for being in here. It has been awesome. Tons of comments. We couldn't bring them all up. Tons of good questions. We've got a whole bunch of content for the next episode. So thank you. Guys, if you're looking to get better prepared, if you're trying to figure things out, there are a couple cool resources you can check out. One, preppertalkradio.com. We've got some links to books, things that might help you with improving those skills and the mindset, medical, first aid, gardening. We've got all of it listed on our website. Links to the books you can go buy. Number two, go to www.survivalfrog. I know it sounds funny. It's ribbit. Survivalfrog.com. Check out their resources. I've got quite a bunch of stuff that I bought there. It's fantastic. They've designed it themselves. It's great products. Use the code PrepperTalk, save 10% on those orders. And then another one, if you're trying to figure out food storage on the cheap, hit up the dollar stores and also check out the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Their food is dry pack canning. Their food stores, the Bishop Storehouse, is open to everybody. So you can get that stuff on the cheap. It's a really fast way and affordable way to get a lot of prep real quick. Until next time, stay focused, stay prepared, and stay ready-minded. Thanks for participating tonight.
See you next week.
Take care, guys.